last Christmas, my brother brought his fiancée home for the holidays and for the very first time, which turned out to be a terrible idea. Because the minute that woman walked through the door, she was bombarded. And everybody had the same question. So, when are you having kids? Nobody asked her what she studied in college or how she met my brother, and some didn't even know what her name was. She did something I could never do, and she kept her cool. She told them that she just wasn't ready for the mental repercussions. And even though she was kind of joking and they were kind of joking, I mean, were they really? What exactly are the mental repercussions of parenthood? So today, we will first take a deep dive into the concept of baby fever. We will then take a magnifying glass to the brain during pregnancy, and finally, we will break the silence on an issue that is sadly overlooked, the reality of postpartum depression. So it goes without saying that my family had a bad case of baby fever that day, which Merriam-Webster defines as the longing that some people experience relating to the desire of having children of their own. In the real world, you can find countless social media posts of people either trying to elicit baby fever in the viewer or document their own experience. After seeing some cute baby videos on Instagram, user DuckaGirl8 writes, "I need to stay off Instagram because I keep seeing all these cute baby videos and it's giving me baby fever." Here's another by user DinoWillVR. "Baby fever went crazy this day. I have no urge to have children, but in this moment that all went out the window." She's admitting that she has no intention of having kids, but the dopamine just took over. Merriam-Webster goes on to explain what reportedly happens to someone in severe cases of baby fever, citing feverish dreams of being pregnant and caring for a child, feeling restless from the unfulfilled wish, and experiencing a visceral radiating pain. But as the old saying goes, if there is a will, there is a way. This is where pseudoscidesis comes in, or a phantom pregnancy. And no, it's not this. No, ladies, your uterus is not haunted, I promise. It's when the brain and body pulls tricks on you to make you think you're pregnant. The Cleveland Clinic in 2022 explains that patterns can appear that merely suggest a pregnancy, like morning sickness or weight gain. And this graphic depicts the rare case where the stomach will actually grow. And this one is a man who is victim to that. Which means, yeah, men experience baby fever. However, the process is notably more cut and dry than it is for women. The Fatherly Newsletter in 2019 cites Gary L. Brace, a PhD student at Kansas State University, when explaining why men experience baby fever, and really there's 3 reasons. Not wanting to be at odds with their partner who does want a baby, becoming more financially stable with age and wanting support during retirement, and wanting to put something on earth to continue their legacy. Someone who is not going to become a pro athlete no matter how good your genetics are. So, now that we know what causes baby fever for both men and women, let's discuss what happens to the brain when the body is actually pregnant. It's called pregnancy brain. As defined by maternal fetal specialist Abdelaziz Saleh with Akron Children's in 2020, pregnancy brain is a process in which the woman's actual brain cells don't change, but the environment around them does. During pregnancy, the body sends out a ton of hormones. In his words, it's like a truckload of different sizes and flavors that affect all different kinds of neurons in the brain. Things like forgetting to lock the door at night before you go to bed are common. But I can't think of a better time than now to share with you this absolute gem of a thread that I found on X. Walt Theodore posits that giving birth isn't as painful as being kicked in the nuts. And Anna Love XO, trying to corner him in his argument, asks, "Have you had a baby?" And he says no, but over the years, women say, "Let's have another one." I've never heard a man say, "Come on, hit me in the nuts again." And you know what? He's actually dead on. And that's because of pregnancy brain. PsychCentral.com cites gynecology professor Ulla Waldenstrom, who conducted a survey wherein 1,383 women were asked how they remember the birth of their children on a pain scale, and over 50% of them reported having memories of little to no pain only 5 years after the birth. Psych Central goes on and states that earlier findings have shown that women who have a negative experience during childbirth have fewer subsequent children and a longer gap in between. The brain is playing tricks on these women to warp their memories and convince them to have more babies, all for survival of the species. So, finally, what is left when there are no more baby dopamine hits and the rose-colored glasses come off? When you can't sleep for days on end and the sound of crying makes you feel like you're going crazy. At this point, many will begin to feel the effects of postpartum depression. As defined by the Mayo Clinic in 2022, postpartum depression is a myriad of intense emotions of sadness, anger, and anxiety after having a baby. It's caused by a major drop in the hormones estrogen and progesterone that kick into overdrive during pregnancy, like we discussed earlier. But after the baby is out, the body just gets depressed. And not only is the baby high gone, but the person in question is now at the beck and call of an infant 24/7. So it's not surprising to hear that postpartum depression is extremely common. In summary of an article published by MGH Center for Women's Mental Health in 2023, it's easiest to digest postpartum depression in 3 stages, from most mild to most severe. Starting with the postpartum blues, affecting 85% of people in postpartum. The blues usually only last for a few days, thankfully, and consist of anger, irritability, and fits of sadness. Postpartum depression. 15% of people are still struggling after those first few days, and sometimes for up to 3 months. Symptoms include insomnia, self-isolation, and feelings of worthlessness. Finally, postpartum psychosis affects only 1 in 1,000 people, yet is certainly nothing to overlook. At this stage, those violent thoughts become nearly impossible to ignore, and in some cases, the parent will end up hurting themselves or their child. And if you are confused or shocked by any of this, that is because it is new research for a phenomenon that is centuries old. The Carver College of Medicine states that it wasn't officially recognized as a medical condition until 1994, which means that none of that support, none of that evidence was there for my mom, who started having kids in 1990. She couldn't understand why it was so difficult to get out of bed in the morning or take a shower. Her ex-husband wasn't much help and just told her that she was being dramatic and she has to step it up if she's going to raise his kids. Her friends and family weren't much help either and just told her that this is a happy time in her life. So she didn't understand why it didn't feel like a happy time. There were thousands of people who felt just like my mom before any attention was given to postpartum depression. All of these people were struggling, and yet none of them spoke up out of fear of being told that they were only complaining. Now, 30 years later, mental health research is expanding endlessly. We now have genetic screenings, crisis hotlines, and authentic websites that don't sugarcoat or gaslight. Organizations like Postpartum Support International, March of Dimes, and the Alexis Joy Foundation have made it their mission to make sure that nobody ever feels alone or worthless in their postpartum journey. Give any of these organizations a call if you want to lend a helping hand. And if there is somebody in your life who's trying to raise a baby right now, consider offering to babysit and help that 85% go down to 60, then to 25, and eventually 0. So today, we first took a deep dive into the concept of baby fever. We then took a magnifying glass to the brain during pregnancy, and finally, we broke the silence on an issue that is sadly overlooked, the reality of postpartum depression. So, if I learned anything that Christmas, I learned that my future sister-in-law is completely justified whether she decides to have kids now or wait to have kids or just never have kids at all. The important thing is that I now know that when I decide to have kids, I'm going to have a lot more to worry about than dirty diapers and a Cocomelon obsession. Thank you.